Welcome back to DC Auto Enhancement, and today we are working on the 1999 Honda Civic EX. In the last video I showed you that not only were the upper control arms bad, or at least on the driver's side, but on the passenger side, when I got over to do the upper control arm on that side, I found a bad inner tie rod. So I'm going to show you today how to change that, and if you missed the last video and that's something that you want to see, I've got a link in the description to the video and also the playlist for the 1999 Honda Civic and everything I've done to get it ready to resell. I'll be using this to remove the inner tie rod from this car and replacing it, and using that to reinstall the inner tie rod as well. Alright, at this point I'm going to go ahead and show you once again how I know that the inner tie rod is the issue. I'm going to take both my hands and grab the rotor, or the whole assembly here. I'm just going to rock it back and forth, and if you watch right here you'll be able to see some movement. And we don't want that, so that's why I'm going to be replacing the inner tie rod. In order to get the inner tie rod out, we're going to have to remove the outer tie rod from the knuckle. So we'll be probably removing a cotter pin, a bolt, separating the outer tie rod from the knuckle, and then we will remove the outer tie rod from the inner tie rod. And one thing we want to do before we start doing that is we want to go ahead and break this nut here loose. So I'm going to go ahead and spray that with PB Blaster or liquid wrench or something prior to getting too deep into this. I think at this point I'm just going to count the turns to get the outer tie rod off. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen the nut on the back side of the outer tie rod, and then I will proceed to remove the outer tie rod, or at least disconnect it from the knuckle.
Some people get caught up in the fast life and they don't slow down to realize.
In the last video I showed you how to disconnect the ball joint, upper ball joint, by using a pickle fork, and this time it's going to be necessary to use the hammer because the pickle fork can damage the rubber, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to see what it takes to remove the ball joint, or the inner tie rod, outer tie rod, with some wax from the sledgehammer. So we're good to go here. So here we're just going to count the turns for taking the outer tie rod off of the inner tie rod. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Alright, so we got 19 turns. At this point we can pull this nut off, or honestly it's not gonna matter because I can pull this boot off, but if this was if this boot wasn't broken, we'd have to take this nut off. So now it's time to remove the inner ball joint. Alright, so we got 19 turns. At this point we can pull this nut off, or honestly it's not gonna matter because I can pull this boot off, but if this was if this boot wasn't broken, we'd have to take this nut off. I'm trying to do this best I can with the tight constraints I've got here. I'm trying to get the cameras in here. So I found a 1 5/16 adapter for the inner tie rod end remover. So the first thing we need to do is get this in position on the old outer tie rod, inner tie rod. Now we'll slide this over. Make sure this doesn't go anywhere. We'll slip the band around it. And now we'll put a 1/2 inch ratchet on this outside portion. Okay, now we're just gonna break that loose, pull the old inner tie rod out. And here is the old one. See the movement in there? So now it's time to put the new one in. So we got the new one. Alright, things are looking good there. So on this one, I test fit this one, and this one appeared to be the 1 inch and 3/16. So 1 3/16 inch. So I'm going to use that to tighten this one back on. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this one. Okay. this boot needs replaced, and at this time I don't have another boot, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put it on there. Before I push that all the way on, I'm gonna go ahead and put the outer tie rod back on. And we had 19 revolutions for taking this off, and I know it's a different part, but we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. So that tightened up on the nut, which I kind of eyeballed from the old one. So we should be in pretty good shape. You still want to go ahead and get the car aligned, take it to a shop where they can do a proper alignment. But in order to get this back together and able to drive to the alignment shop, this is good enough. So now I'm going to run this nut back on. So now at this point I'm going to go ahead and tighten this jam nut, and maybe it is the same size as the original, and maybe it's not, and it is not. So I'm going to grab an adjustable wrench. Alright, so that's good enough to get us to the alignment shop. I'm just going to go ahead and put it back together. So if you want to see how that's done, you can watch the beginning of the video in reverse, or maybe I'll just take the footage and put it in reverse also. But if this was helpful and helped you get through a job that you needed to get done, please give me a comment, like, or subscribe. But more importantly, I want to know if I was able to help you, and if not, what did I miss in this video that you could have used. So I look forward to hearing from you in the comments below. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next video, and we will have another video because there's still a little bit more to do to this car.